Okay, so let's round off VTP by talking about VTP version 3. So versions 1 and 2 had some issues. Configuration revision number, VTP bomb, or issues with transparent mode. And just the lack of ability to handle extended mode VLANs effectively, which meant we needed transparent mode. So VTP version 3 has some improvements, both in trying to make the protocol more resilient, a bit more fault tolerant, and also add in some extra features. So it includes the ability to handle .1q VLANs up to 4094 now inside of VTP with new updates, and also allows support for private VLANs and RSPAN VLANs as well, which makes things a bit simpler if you're doing a private VLAN setup over multiple switches, which you sometimes need to do. So we can carry that information across trunk links more effectively than before. It also has different databases, or the capability to have different databases which are opaque to each other. So we have the one we already know about, which is the VLAN database, what VTP was originally for, but it's also been extended to carry multiple spanning tree information as well, multi-instance spanning tree, etc. So we can use VTP to populate spanning tree information across switches as well, if it's version 3. And the protocol has been built in such a way that they could add new features to it later as well when they come up with something else. So it's more extensible than it was. Before we talked about transparent mode being effectively like switching VTP off. Well, now we actually have an off switch for VTP. We still have transparent mode, but we can also say a switch is not listening anymore to VTP, just like before. But we can also say we want to switch off VTP on the switch completely, or on a particular interface. So on that trunk link we mentioned earlier on, the one that was connected to a non-capable device. So we had a trunk link connected to a router, say, which caused us problems with pruning. Remember that? So we could fix that if we had VTP version 3, because we could turn off VTP for that trunk link only. So it's a lot more resilient in cases like that. So another way it's become more resilient is to try and get around that problem of the VTP bomb. And the way they handled that is to have new server roles. So before we had client, server, transparent. Now we also have a primary server role and a secondary server role. So what used to be a server is now automatically a secondary server. Okay. If you want to change a VLAN, add a VLAN, what we used to do on any server, now you have to promote a server from a secondary to a primary. And then you can do your changes to the VLAN database, add a VLAN, for example, or get rid of one. And once you're done, good practice would be to demote it again. And that means you don't get accidental changes to the database. So somebody can't just walk in, sit down at any server and overwrite something by accident, because you have to promote it to a primary server, and then, if you're smart, demote it again later to stop accidents happening. So you're normally prompted for a password when you do this as well. Okay. So this is a way of trying to get around the kind of issues we had before that made VTP kind of a bit worrying to use sometimes. So VTP also, version 3 also keeps track of which switches are in the domain running VTP3, so it knows if there's a primary server in the domain already. If you want to promote a switch to primary and there already is one, you might have to force it because it will run a check to see if there are any other devices which have primary server enabled. So if that's the case, then you might have to say force, to make it be the primary even though there is one already. So unlike VTP version 2, it keeps track of the other VTP switches. Okay. So if we have a VTP password in our domain, we need to type that in to promote the switch to primary. And it would be advisable to do that, otherwise you're getting rid of the benefit of having this role, Okay. Configuration-wise, you say VTP version 3, and you can configure the VTP server to be a particular mode, client, server, etc., for a particular function. So this is for normal VTP, if you like, controlling VLAN information, but you could also say I'm a server for multiple spanning tree or something. And one switch can be doing different things, can have a different role depending on what it's doing, spanning tree versus VLANs. If you want to promote a switch to primary, you say VTP primary server and the VLAN you want to, or whether you want VLANs or spanning tree, and whether you need to force it. It will then run a check to see if there's anything out there already, and if you have, you're going to say force. Okay. That was quick. So version 3 is, getting around most of the issues that we had with version 2, really. Other things, if you have a password, you can make it hidden so it doesn't show up in the configuration file. That was an issue with previous versions. So it's a better bet if you can in terms of reliability. Okay, so questions? Okay. So most of today is, up until the last couple of things, has really been probably recap on basic things you've done in the past. But it gets you used to it again, I guess. Next week, we are going to be going into spanning tree. So there's spanning tree, there's the revenge of spanning tree, there's etc. And what I want you to pay attention to there is not so much just spanning tree operation, but how it interacts with the way traffic flows at layer 2. Because spanning tree actually determines the path traffic takes through the layer 2 network in a way that isn't always obvious, the way they teach you at CCNA or something. So manipulating spanning tree can be absolutely key to manipulating the path that traffic will take through a network if you're trying to do something like load balancing or just meet the requirements of a question, So we're going to look at ordinary, old-fashioned 802.1d, our 4-step sequence, the way spanning tree thinks, do all that. And then we're going to go into per VLAN, and then we're going to go into multiple, and we'll talk a bit about load balancing and all these other things that we can do. Okay. We'll also look at enhancements, RSTP versus the port fast type stuff as well. Okay, so if you want to have a read of some of that stuff before next week, that might be a good idea. Okay. On on Thursday, Maria will be doing the scenario half of the lectures. Okay. So that's like this stuff again, but more of that. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you very much.